Welcome to the Rap Soul Podcast, where we dive deep into the world of music that moves our hearts and gets our feet tapping. This is the intersection of rap and soul music from the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. We appreciate you for listening. Share this podcast with a friend or family member who loves music as much as you do. The podcast is hosted by 12 Kyle. Next up, the Rap Soul Podcast.
Welcome to another edition of the Rap Soul Podcast. I am your boy 12 Kyle. I want to thank you all for tuning in as you do each and every week. Again, this is the Rap Soul Podcast. This is the intersection where we have discussions about music and artists from the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s when it comes to rap, hip hop, soul, and R&B. Simply put, folks, this is the best music podcast that you have never heard until right now. Shout out to those of you who are watching on YouTube. Man, check this out. Okay, on this week's episode, we're going to talk about another verse of the week. And I love doing these verses of the week because it gives me a chance to reflect on a song that I like or an artist that I like and, kind of dive deep a little bit into the song. These episodes aren't particularly long, but they're fun to do. And this one will be no exception. As you can see the title, we are talking about Slippin' by none other than the late, great Darkman X, a.k.a. DMX. The song's released in 1998. I probably don't have to explain to people who DMX was or what the song is about, but DMX, there was a point in time where DMX was the largest hip hop act in the game. I distinctly remember him being on the Hard Knock Life tour and Jay-Z wasn't the headliner. It was DMX. In fact, Jay-Z famously talks about how he realized that it probably was a better idea for DMX to go on after him as opposed to before him when they were on that tour. Nonetheless, DMX was a huge figure in hip hop. As many of you know, a few years ago, DMX unfortunately passed away, accidental drug overdose. And as a fan, we definitely miss him. We definitely miss Earl. I would tend to call him Earl from time to time. That's his real name, even though I didn't know him personally. But this particular song, Slippin', is a very somber song. It's a very eye-opening song. It's a sad song. And I know you may be thinking, well, why do you like this sad song? Even though I really can't identify with a lot of stuff that he's talking about, and I'll talk about this in just a second. What appeals to me is the openness of DMX, the sharing of his story, his background. And I'm always interested to hear about people's background, particularly if they're people that I don't know. But Slippin' it's about self-motivation. In this song, DMX shares his thoughts on making positive changes in his life. He delivers a powerful inspirational song by vowing to himself to strive to be a better person and to be the person that he wants to be. He's a man who hit rock bottom, and yet he finds the courage to uplift himself through word and then subsequently through action, and to make himself realize his dreams. And what was interesting was I did not realize this, but there's a sample in the song from saxophonist Grover Washington Jr., who I grew up on his music as a child. There's a sample from his song called Moonstreams. And Grover Washington Jr. gave the okay for DMX to use Moonstreams and be sampled only on one condition. The one condition was if he used any profanity, he could not use the sample. And so when you hear the radio version of Slippin', you'll hear DMX, you'll hear some ad libs like "woo," you'll hear that. That's where there was a curse word, and they had to put something in so that he could use the sample because Grover Washington Jr. specified that he did not want any profanity on this song because it sampled Moonstream's his song. Obviously, in the song, DMX starts it off by talking. He said, "This life shit, yeah, this life shit is like it's like bug the fuck out for real. See, to live is to suffer, but to survive, well, that's to find the meaning of suffer." And I particularly like verse 1, and I'll read to you verse 1. He said, "I've been through mad different phases like mazes to find my way. And I know now that happy days are not far away. If I'm strong enough, I'll learn enough to see my kid doing something more constructive with their time than bids. Because I know I've been there. Now I'm in there. Sit back and look at what it took for me to get there. First came the bullshit, the drama with my mama. She got on some fly shit, so I split and said that I'm going to be that seed that doesn't need much to succeed, strapped with mad greed and a heart that doesn't bleed. I'm ready for the world, or at least I thought I was, bagging niggas when I caught a buzz for thinking how short I was, going too fast, it wouldn't last, yo, but I couldn't tell the group homes that propelled my ass for jail. They put me in situations forcing me to be a man when I was just learning to stand there without a helping hand. Damn, was it my fault? Something that I did to make a father leave his kid at 7 doing his first bid? Let me stop there. That's a lot. I mean, it's well chronicled about DMX was an orphan, left by his mom and his dad at a very, very young age. And he was in the streets at a very, very young age. I want to say he was on the streets like at 7, kind of roaming from family to family, not having the guidance of a mom who, if I'm not mistaken, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I think his mom was dealing with some type of substance abuse. Dad doing a bid, and then subsequently DMX got into trouble with the law very early, very young. I want to say he had been arrested probably by the time he was 10. The part where he says, strapped with mad greed and a heart that doesn't bleed. That line stood out to me because what kind of man doesn't have a heart or has a heart that doesn't bleed? And what I took from that was that he probably had experienced so much pain, so much drama in his life that he didn't feel much, wherein you and I would feel something, or we would feel the consequences of something that we did or we said. He didn't have the same. And I think that's a very difficult emotion to deal with when you're 10, 11 years old. And you've realized this already about the world. And you realize that the world don't care. And the people that are here to take care of you or help take care of you or help guide you aren't there. And so where do you get love from? Do you get love from the streets? Do you get love from, people that you come in contact with? Where does it come from? And so I think myself as well as other fans, even if we didn't experience this type of lifestyle, I think I can see how this song or these emotions flowing out would appeal to us. And, bouncing back and forth through group homes. He said, group homes and institutions prepared my ass for jail. They put me in a situation forcing me to be a man when I was just learning to stand without a helping hand. I was just learning to stand without a helping hand. He said it, and I never gave a fuck much about my dog, and that's the only motherfucker I hit off with my last, just another little nigga headed nowhere fast. Very well chronicled about DMX and his love for his dog or dogs. And he became known as the dog. I think one of the things that stands out to me about this song is just the pain and how he's able to convey that to the public. you know how like sometimes you hear rap songs and you're like, oh, there's no way that he did that, or there's no way she said that, or there's no way that they believe what they just wrote or rapped or sang. If you didn't know DMX's story, it still comes across, to me at least, as very authentic. And with it being authentic, it's also poetically sad as well, because he went through a lot as a child, and I don't necessarily know if he ever healed from, some of that trauma. And if you familiar with DMX's story, DMX, I think at the time that he passed, I think he had 11 kids. I'm not sure. It could have been 12. But I do remember seeing there was a reality show called Ayanla Fix My Life. And I want to say his oldest son was on there with him, as well as his ex-wife, Tashira. And that was, I'm not even into reality shows, but that was really, really tough to watch. And I remember distinctly, and I don't know if it was for TV or anything, but DMX's son, I think his name was Xavier. Without looking it up, I apologize for not knowing. Let's just say his name was Xavier. Towards the end of the episode, he basically tells DMX in so many words, and he may have said it in these exact words, like, either you're going to get off drugs, because at that point in time, DMX was still getting high. And DMX has been very open about his battles with substance abuse. And he's one of the first people that I've ever heard admit that, he smoked crack. And he was, he battled that throughout his entire adult life. But anyway, in the episode, his son basically says, like, look, either you're going to get off drugs or I'm going to not be in your life. And DMX confronts him and he says, well, hey, either you're going to take back what you said or you're going to see me at my funeral. And Xavier didn't take back what he said. And DMX looked at him in his face and said, all right, I guess I'll see you at my funeral. And he walks off. And I don't know. I mean, this happened years before. This was at least 5 or 6 years before DMX passed. I don't know if they patched things up. Again, I don't know if that was just meant for TV or what have you, but every time I think about this song, I think about that episode of Ayanla Fix My Life. And, it's just, he was dealing with so much, and you could see that everything that he had in his tormented childhood came to adulthood. Now, I'm sure he had his great times because he was largely successful. He made a lot of money. From what I can tell, he didn't have a lot of enemies. Everybody loved DMX. You'd be hard pressed to find a hip hop fan that didn't like DMX. At the very least, they liked him. May not have bought all of his albums, but they liked him and they gave him a lot of respect. And one of the last things that I remember about DMX was him and Snoop doing the verses. I every now and then I'll go back and watch a few clips of that. Fun times. You could tell both he and Snoop were having a ball. And I think we got a chance to see a side of DMX that we normally didn't see. But all in all, this is a great song, Slippin'. I think it gives us a picture as to who Earl Simmons was. It also gives us a picture as to what Earl Simmons dealt with for an early part of his life and probably much through his adult life. And it also gave us a glimpse as to how he overcame it, at least in short stints, because his drug addiction would be off and on, off and on. And he would try to get clean, and he might be clean for a couple of years and then he'd fall back off the wagon. But nonetheless, a dope song. DMX, again, you're missed, brother. You're sorely missed. And you left us with some great music, and in this case, a great song. And we're thankful for that. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for me. Thanks again for checking out this edition of the Rap Soul Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast. We drop new episodes every Thursday. Go to the website, therapsoulpodcast.riverside.com. There you can get all of the episodes. in their links to all of the DSPs. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for me. Thanks again for checking out this edition of the Rap Soul Podcast. I am your boy 12 Kyle. I'll catch you guys next time. 5,000. Chill.
Thank you for listening. This concludes the episode. Be sure to subscribe to the Rap Soul Podcast. You can find the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Follow the podcast on social media. And feel free to continue this discussion on our Reddit page. More importantly, share this podcast with a friend or family member who loves music as much as you do. Until next time, 5,000.